Hi, this is Nilankur and welcome to another episode of Herald Cafe. As you know, we often get the famous Goan personalities and people who are visiting Goa from the creative side to talk to us. Today we have the filmmaker Q, who has been in Goa for last, I think, 15, 20 years or 10 years. And few of his films, which are also you can see it on Netflix, are shot in Goa. The recent web series you made and films are all in Netflix if you would like to see. So, Q, we can. I have some questions for you. To start with, I would like to know that you have traveled all over the world and your films are in every big festival, like Sundance included. And you have traveled to so many places for your shoot, and you were in Sri Lanka also for a longer time for your advertising career. What made you move to Goa to stay? What is that magic that pulled you in?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for calling me, and great to meet you guys. I've been living here since the last 10 years properly, but I came to Goa first on my own in '98, and back then, I think at the very outset, Goa really made an impression, and which I could never get out of. Goa forever changed my outlook. I realized that there was a life and opportunity outside of the structures that we had been told in Indian cities. I grew up in Calcutta. And very there were very strict guidelines about what you could be or what
Social
you
structures.
structures in terms of hierarchy, in terms of a guy like me trying to be a filmmaker. This wasn't in my scope of imagination even. But when I came to Goa, I met so many people who were like me, and they were pursuing what they wanted to do, and with various degrees of success. And this started me on this journey of trying to find who I really was. And of course, Sri Lanka played a big part as well. And what happened in Sri Lanka was also interesting, because I realized how much I really wanted to be in Goa or a place like this.
Okay.
Few factors, of course, the natural factor, which is one factor. The other factor is the psychological and spiritual factor. I think these two combined gives Goa a very unique sort of distinction in terms of where you could place yourself.
Then talking about your profession, filmmaking, do you think Goa has a conducive ecosystem to do your production, your location? I know location is superb, you get great locations, but technical support like camera rentals and all. Do you think there is a conducive atmosphere for the filmmakers or the any other creative field there? Because I have seen recently also there are two Konkani films are winning big awards and stuff. There is a structure that we know of, but does it also help? Is it compatible to the Bollywood or Bombay style, where you get easily those equipments and stuff?
Yeah, well, I come from Calcutta, where there's a film industry as well. So no, the short answer will be no.
Okay.
That there is no infrastructure, but and the equipment has to be brought in from Maharashtra in most cases. However, I think that's that can be solved quite easily. It's the matter of two vendors putting in money to, if there is an existing film economy that is going on, and there are very capable talent over here. There's no problem with that. Almost half of the people that I know of the film industry have moved to Goa.
Okay.
Mostly people who are not doing non-commercial films, documentaries or independent films. And these are not only producers, directors, writers. We are talking about technicians like DOPs, like cinematographers and art directors, production designers, costume people. So in terms of people, it's very, very sorted.
Okay.
In terms of location, it's great.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, infrastructure-wise, we could do with some help. Some amount of equipment should be available. More cameras should be available, etc. But most importantly, I think people come to shoot in Goa for the location only.
Yes.
But as you well know, and what you mentioned, the Konkani films were not about location. They are about Goa stories.
Yeah,
they are stories
yes.
of Goa, which is unique to Goa, and they're not simply good looking. Often they are not good looking, and that's also part of the narrative that we need to present.
Yes. Okay, one important question I want to ask you, like when you said that why you loved Goa, because there is a spiritual side to it, and so there's a lot of, we can see there's a conflict between insiders and outsiders. We often, even Herald newspaper also wrote about so many issues that the outsiders are facing or the insiders are facing. There's a huge conflict. So where do you, after spending 10 years in Goa, where do you think you stay in that optics? Like, where are you? What are your views on that? Why it is increasing, or do you think it is actually increasing?
Yes, I think over the last few years, we've seen a tremendous amount of influx in sort of domestic residents. So Indians moving to Goa from different parts of India. And here we are placed with two problems. Before we come there, we must say that before that, a large part of the people who would come to Goa, I would believe, were the conscious sort. These are people who,
I believe so, yeah.
Before going to a place, they read up, they try to understand what they can or cannot do, etc. etc. There was some amount of ethics involved with movement. And people who were moving around used to adhere to these things. What we see now is that by and large, and India can't be put into one box, there are different kinds of Indians, but overall, we are not a country which has benefited from a lot of education in terms of these factors. Like when you go to some place, how do you behave?
The cultural markers.
Cultural markers, and the idea that you are not yourself when you're visiting some other place. You need to be outside of yourself. You need to see some other things. You need to eat different food. You need to do different things.
Yeah.
But this is not something that we are told when we are growing up. We don't have the wherewithal to know this. So it's not really fair to just put the blame on the people who are coming. They simply don't know. But then, how do we solve this problem?
Yeah.
Now, let's come to these problems. The fact that people are now moving. They're not just coming to spend a few days. They're now coming, buying houses, getting, their families here, or treating it as a second home.
Goa has the largest closed houses, like second homes in India.
Second homes, yeah, exactly. So it's become this holiday home kind of space, which is a mildly European concept. And if you see all the festival towns that we go to, like Cannes or Sitges, these are holiday towns. Nobody lives there out, But Goa is not like that. Goa is a living, breathing organism. It's a state.
Yeah.
It's a populated state. It's not somewhere just there's a beach and nothing else. So what I feel very strongly about this, because I live in Asagaon and I've seen a swift transformation of Asagaon. We are facing, as you well know, water issues. We are facing garbage issues, and these are being compounded by this traffic of incoming traffic. I think measures should be put into place in a very interesting now kind of spirit, and we've been talking about these apps or something that lets the tourist know that you're a tourist and what you're supposed to do, and maybe reward them. If they do it, if they really do their garbage properly, if they do invest some time in their neighborhood, and not be these disjointed people who are living in gated communities, then maybe some solution can be reached.
Yeah, it's a great idea to maybe for the cultural integration reward something.
Yeah,
like,
I'm thinking it should be a very popular video game
Yeah.
that we have, that when you come to Goa, you got to play that game, and and you earn
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Again, taking the cue from that conflict, insider outsider conflict, and recently, like you said, the Asagaon has like the groundwater levels are dipping down, and stuff like trees are being cut and stuff, and the crass commercialization is happening. There's a new rule that 10 o'clock the music should be off. That kind of a scenario. So upon all these things, between all these pressures, are we losing some cultural heritage? The actual Goa, is it slowly eroding away, or if you feel that, is it going like the concept of universalism and all? If it is happening, what are your ways to mitigate it? Like how you say a reward system, a app like Goa Appreciation app, that kind of a scenario. What are you doing personally to solve this?
I can tell you that one funny thing that we were doing just the other day, me and my friends sitting at Escobar, which is a village pub near the Asagaon Junction. There we were sitting there, and one of the guys had a whistle. So we were loudly whistling every time a water tanker was passing by.
Oh.
And we were timing it. That's a game.
Yeah.
Games like this actually maybe doesn't do anything else, but at least tells people that this is a problem. This is something that is happening. It's like, calling it out.
Okay.
In my little lane on this Sunday, I counted 5 trucks.
Oh.
And these 5 trucks were struggling to, enter the lane, etc., making quite a ruckus. Now, as we know that development is something that nobody can stop. Change is something which is inevitable, right? So it doesn't really serve us any good to just keep complaining.
Right.
So as you were saying, like what are we doing? How are we personally motivated, or that contributing? So our contribution would be that we take great interest in indigenous nature of Goa.
Yeah.
And as we know, there have been several very, very successful civilian campaigns, including Mole.
Yes.
And we are working down south in Parole on private forests and people who have been conserving just by themselves with no subsidies or helps from any institution or the government. And what we are trying to do is maybe look at a cooperative idea to get all these forest owners together to share resources, number one. And number two, the main threat is real estate. The main threat is land price. So in order to mitigate that, we are thinking of virtual solutions. We are thinking, so imagine this, that what does the real estate person want? They have 5 acres of land, they want to build a township.
Yes.
So we are saying, okay, then let's build the township. But it's not a real township. It's a virtual town.
Okay.
It's going to rest on top of the forest. We map the forest and we'll make the township exactly like what you want, right? But it's not real. So maybe some people in the audience may know about these new things called metaverses that are very, very popular now. And the internet is changing very quickly. What has happened is the real estate crash, as we have seen, it's like a Plato now, all around the world. A lot of real estate people are actually buying virtual land now. So in Decentraland or in Roblox or in Korea, in Japan, where land is precious and very high value. So this is something that we are trying to do as a pilot project, one forest in Parole, building one virtual city.
Great. I would like to know more about it.
Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Hi. Continuing about your love for Goa, like how you have found yourself in Goa, like how you have said that there's a spiritual, eco-spiritual kind of a scenario. You have, as I told you earlier also, you have seen so many places, you went to so many places, and India is a huge country. Are not there any other place than Goa to choose to live in and feel that same feeling that you are having now? What is the story?
Yeah, this is very important question because, you know, every local feels like this. Why here? Why are you coming into my neighborhood? You know, and it's a valid question. However, the answer to this is not the people or the culture. It's really about the energy of a space, of a city or a space. And you see this around the world, right? And what happens in Europe, for instance, is that cities actually want to be cultural centers.
Give me an example.
Like for instance, in Europe, every year they have a vote for the most cultural city.
Like across Europe?
Across Europe.
Okay.
So you can, you know, put your city there, and if you win, then the European Commission gives the city some money for cultural events to happen there, etc., etc.
Similar to the most cleanest city in India, that kind of scenario.
Yeah. So you get rewarded for being cultural. Unfortunately, we don't have anything like this, but we should. And Goa very organically took up this space. The reason for this, I think, is simply this amazing energy that the space has, which once found by the early community who came in from abroad, Goa sort of adapted to that lifestyle. It's not that I'm sure there were problems happening then as well, right?
Yeah.
But slowly there was this thing, and this has not happened anywhere in India. Goa produced a particular brand of music, a style, a genre of music, which then was played around the world.
Goa Trance.
Goa Trance.
Okay. Yes.
And there were legendary producers and DJs who in the 70s and the 80s developed this form to a level where now Ibiza wanted to be Goa. Not because of the space, but how do you get so much energy in a space that can produce a distinct kind of sound?
True.
No other space in India has that, right? Which resonates internationally. And then what happened? We lost again. Now, instead of taking that and building on it, we just let it subside into a sad nightclub situation. It was not club music. It was real music. And now, if you look at like the latest electronica sound, where is it coming from? It's coming from Tallinn, or in Estonia. It's coming from Poland, from Warsaw. So my point being that when it's not just a tourist destination. It never was. Like Berlin, it was a cultural destination. There was something happening due to the history, the geography, and a socio-political economic situation. And the fact that Goa is a rural society, that plays a big role in this. And I think that's one of the key reasons for my saying this eco-spiritual thing is rural living. It's a cultured rural living. How to live with nature, with animals, with our snakes, with our with all the other wild creatures that are around, and living in harmony. This is something that if we will lose out if this influx continues of people who don't give a damn about it.
About the cultural markers of Goa, Goa has been like melting pot of a globalization for such a long time. It's a major port. Like in 1800s, 1700s, we had Italian merchants, and there was slave market in Madgaon for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
There's Arabian horse trading
Mm.
was happening. So yeah, that way, and the big hippie movement has come, which have like
Yeah.
propagated that Anjuna scene, like
Yeah. Yeah.
make it a worldwide
Yeah, and the
destination.
post-hippie electronica movement, the ravers.
Yeah. So it's sad that now we are losing that slowly, and I hope people like you, the Creative Force, the other organizations like My Mole was a big campaign. All these people and the organization will try to find a balance, maybe have a negotiated approach to the development, because we cannot stop which is something. So we can have a negotiated approach, you know. And last question I want to ask you: what are your future plans? Now that I can figure out you will be staying here.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah. And what are your future plans? Anything related to Goa, or new projects that are coming up that you will use Goa's resources? You will put it up in a positive manner to the public. What you said, the feel of Goa. Can you, in your coming up projects, are you trying to transmit that love?
Yeah.
Somehow, how do you want to see?
Yeah, so as you know, I mean, last year our studio becomes an extension of a performance space, a collaborative space. Whenever we have studios, this season we don't have a studio in Goa because most of the work is happening in the East Coast. But we hope to do it again next year. And last year we were at this spot called, earlier it used to be this club called Katsan Super in Vagator.
Huh.
And this is also, that from that time where it was very alternative space,
Yes.
extremely cool energy, also underground, also like industrial, very different from the Goa airy, hippie and beachy vibe. So we had a festival there where we tried to get in as many artists as possible. There were Goan artists as well, non-Goan, neo-Goans as we all are. We want to be known as Goans. So there were artists like that. There were artists like Jose, Neil, and friends who were from, of course, the great legendary Elvis and Shane, and all these remarkable musicians who are not really being projected the way they should be. And I feel that very important to have Goa's own label. Like Goa Underground was the label through which trance music really went out and reached the world. And in this day and age, this reaching out is no longer a problem. Earlier, imagine those guys had to travel with the 10 CDs and play them across the world. Now you can just have a channel on Spotify. So, but what is happening is there's no Goa scene. Like we need to be able to we need to curate it in such a way that it, because at this point of time, as again, you and I know for very well most of these people, I can count at least 30 to 40 artists who are living in Goa right now, who are functioning at the highest international standard. If they are filmmakers like Pan Nalin, whose films are going for all the festivals, or could be a writer, there are musicians, there are people like Nikhil and etc. in performance arts. They are functioning at the highest level in the international community. But there is no consolidated group or Goa thing that they are part of a loose group. We are all part of this loose collective. We all know each other. We all go and hang out, and this is our peer group. And it's a peer group like nowhere else in India. I don't think that this is possible in Bangalore or Bombay. It's not possible. This kind of vibe, this kind of togetherness, and the feeling, the love that we feel for each other's work, and getting inspired by things that the other does. I think there could be a way to make this come together digitally, where the world knows that, oh, these are all in the same space.
Got it.
and the
Okay.
space gets the benefit of that.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
that Goa is known then, oh, okay, all the best artists of India live in Goa. You know, that's
Was-
something
yeah.
very critical. And of course, indigenous artists, like I said, there's no Goa label for Elvis to publish his music on.
Okay.
You know
Got
what I
it.
mean?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's something that I'm sure O Heraldo could do something about. There are many interesting options that could be presented.
It's a major lacuna. I also feel like that, like a GI tagging a cultural concept rather
Yeah.
than a
Yeah.
food or something.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's just restaurants that we tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Thank you, Q, for
Thanks a
your
lot.
wise talk and like making us understand
Anytime.
where we lack and your love for Goa. Great to hear that. Thank you,
Thank you.
audience. I hope you liked our program, and see you next week. Thanks.